Think about the last time you knocked a glass off a table. You didn't just stand there and watch it fall. Before you even consciously processed what was happening, your hand shot out, your fingers closed, and you caught it in mid-air. You probably felt a brief rush of adrenaline, maybe a little spark of pride at your own reflexes. But you shouldn't, because you didn't react to the glass falling. Biologically speaking, reacting is impossible. If you had actually waited to see the glass fall, process the visual information, send a signal to your motor cortex, and move your arm, the glass would have shattered on the floor long before your muscles even twitched. You didn't react to the present. You reacted to the future. You caught a glass in a reality that hadn't actually happened yet. And the only reason you were able to do that is because you are entirely blind to the present moment. Everything you are looking at right now, the screen in front of you, the room you are sitting in, the light coming through the window, none of it is happening right now. You are living exactly 80 milliseconds in the past. Light takes time to hit your retina. Chemical signals take time to travel down the optic nerve. The visual cortex takes time to process shapes, colors, and motion. In the cold, hard mathematics of neurobiology, 80 milliseconds is a massive, terrifying lag. In 80 milliseconds, a predator can close the distance to your throat. In 80 milliseconds, a falling rock can crush your skull. If human beings actually lived in real time, relying solely on sensory input as it arrived, our species would have been wiped out in the African savanna 300,000 years ago. We would have been too slow, too clumsy, constantly reacting to a world that had already moved on without us. So, evolution did what evolution always does. It didn't fix the hardware. It hacked the software. It built a workaround so profound, so fundamentally deceptive, that it entirely rewrote the human experience. Your brain stopped trying to process the present. Instead, it became a relentless, highly optimized prediction engine. Your brain is basically a supercomputer trapped in a pitch-black, silent box of bone. It has no direct access to the outside world. It only receives delayed electrical signals. To keep you alive, it takes those delayed signals, cross-references them with your past memories, and actively hallucinates what it thinks the world is going to look like 80 milliseconds from now. What you perceive as reality is actually just your brain's best guess of the immediate future, continuously projected onto your consciousness. You are walking, talking, and living inside a deeply immersive, biological simulation, and you are running this simulation constantly. It doesn't matter if you are dodging a fast-moving car in traffic, or sitting quietly at your desk calculating complex risk models and strategic outcomes for a competitive football prediction pool. The underlying biological mechanism is exactly the same. Your brain is projecting scenarios forward, mapping out trajectory, velocity, and probability, trying to figure out where the moving pieces will be before they get there. In neuroscience, this framework is called predictive coding. For decades, scientists believed the brain worked bottom-up. They thought sensory information came in through the eyes and ears, traveled up into the higher cognitive centers, and then the brain figured out what to do. We now know this is completely backward. The brain works top-down. The higher cognitive centers are constantly generating a massive, detailed template of the world. It generates the room, the temperature, the sounds, the gravity. It sends this massive prediction downwards, towards your sensory organs. Your eyes and ears are not cameras recording the world. They are error checkers. Their only job is to compare the incoming data from the outside world with the simulation your brain has already built. If the data matches the simulation, your brain basically ignores the raw data. It just feeds you the simulation because it's computationally cheaper. You don't actually see your own living room every time you walk into it. You see a memory of your living room, updated only if someone moved a chair or dropped a book. The only time you actually process raw, unedited reality is when your brain makes a prediction error. When something happens that the simulation didn't account for, a loud bang, a sudden movement in your peripheral vision, a step on a staircase that isn't actually there. Think about that feeling. When you are walking down the stairs in the dark, and your brain predicts there is one more step, but you're full its solid floor early. That massive, jarring, electric shock that violently ripples through your entire body. That is what a prediction error feels like. That is the terrifying feeling of your biological simulation collapsing and raw reality crashing through the firewall. This top-down predictive architecture is the most powerful survival tool in the known universe, but it comes with a devastating, invisible cost. Because running a continuous, highly detailed simulation of the future requires an astonishing amount of energy. Your brain accounts for only 2% of your total body weight. Yet it burns through 20% of your daily caloric intake. And the vast majority of that energy isn't spent on doing math, or reading, or consciously thinking. It is spent powering a network of brain regions known as the default mode network. The default mode network is the core engine of your time machine. Whenever you are not intensely focused on a specific task, this network powers up. It pulls data from your hippocampus, your memory center, and starts running thousands of simulated futures. It imagines what you are going to say in a meeting tomorrow. It visualizes the route you are going to drive to work. It plays out potential arguments with your partner before they even happen. Evolution designed this system to keep you safe. By playing out a dangerous scenario in a simulation, your ancestors could figure out how to survive it without actually having to risk their lives. The simulation allows our ideas to die in our place. But here is where the biology turns against us. For a hunter-gatherer, the future was immediate, physical, and highly predictable. The threats were a lion in the brush, a rival tribe across the river, or a fast-approaching winter. The simulations the brain ran were highly specific, and they resolved quickly. You either survived the lion, or you didn't. The simulation ended, and the default mode network could power down. But we don't live in the savannah anymore. We built a modern, hyper-complex, abstract civilization, and we plugged our ancient, paranoid prediction engines directly into it. Today, the threats to your survival are no longer physical. They are entirely conceptual. Will the economy crash? Will you get fired next month? Will your relationship survive the year? Will that slight pain in your chest turn out to be a terminal illness? These are variables that the biological algorithm cannot easily compute. There is no immediate resolution. The threat never attacks, but it also never goes away. And so, the predictive engine gets stuck in a loop. It takes a tiny, ambiguous piece of data, an unreturned text message, a weird look from a boss, a headline on the internet, and it feeds it into the simulation. It calculates the worst-case scenario. Because in nature, assuming the worst keeps you alive. Assuming a rustling bush is just the wind gets you eaten. Assuming it's a tiger keeps you breathing. When this mechanism misfires in the modern world, we don't call it a survival instinct. We call it anxiety. Anxiety is not a weakness. It is not a flaw in your character. Anxiety is the exact same evolutionary algorithm that kept your ancestors alive, blindly applying the mathematics of a tiger attack to an unanswered email. It is the biological consequence of a prediction engine that has been given too many variables, too much processing power, and absolutely no way to verify if its simulations are correct. When you lie awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, heart racing, your stomach in a knot, you are not broken. Your brain is simply doing what it was designed to do over millions of years. It is rapidly cycling through hundreds of catastrophic futures, desperately trying to find a mathematical solution to a problem that doesn't actually exist yet. You are suffering from a chronic overdose of time travel. And this brings us to the most uncomfortable truth of all. If you are always living 80 milliseconds in the past, while simultaneously projecting your consciousness weeks, months, and years into the future, where does that leave the present? The answer is nowhere. The present moment, for a human being, is an evolutionary blind spot. It is biologically impossible for you to truly experience now. You are a ghost, eternally hovering between a reality that has already finished and a hallucination that hasn't happened yet. This is why mindfulness, meditation, and the simple act of being present feels so incredibly difficult and unnatural. You are fighting against hundreds of thousands of years of hardwired neurobiology. When you sit down, close your eyes, and try to focus only on your breath, your default mode network immediately panics. It assumes that because you are not actively predicting a threat, you are in terrible danger. It starts throwing random thoughts, old memories, and future anxieties at you, desperately trying to jumpstart the prediction engine again. Meditating isn't just relaxing. It is an act of violent rebellion against the survival algorithm that built you. You are forcing the machine to look at the one thing it was designed to ignore: the raw, unedited, static reality of exactly what is happening in this exact fraction of a second. We spend our entire lives obsessed with what comes next. We buy insurance. We check the weather forecast. We map out 5-year career plans. We save money for retirement. We look at the stars and try to calculate the exact date the universe will end. We think this makes us intelligent. We think this makes us the masters of our own destiny. But it doesn't. It just makes us prisoners of our own anatomy. Every ambition you have ever had, every terrible fear that keeps you awake, every detailed plan you have ever made for tomorrow is just a shadow play. It is a localized electrical storm happening in a 3-pound mass of fat and water inside a sealed calcium vault. Your brain doesn't predict the future so you can enjoy it. It predicts the future so you can survive long enough to replicate. The algorithm doesn't care if the simulations make you miserable. It doesn't care if the constant anxiety grinds your mental health into dust. It only runs one cold, binary calculation. Did the host survive the simulation? Yes or no? The next time you feel a wave of dread about something that hasn't happened yet, the next time you find yourself paralyzed by the infinite branching paths of tomorrow, take a look at your own hand. Move your fingers. Realize that by the time you see them move, the movement is already history. The future you are so afraid of is just a ghost story your brain is telling itself in the dark. And the reality you are trying so hard to control is something you will never actually get to touch. Because by the time you finally arrive in the future, your brain will have already moved on, frantically hallucinating the next one. You are a biological machine designed to constantly look over the horizon, forever blind to the ground beneath your feet.